Kini ang simbianan sa RPN Radio Philippines Network DXKS DXKS 1080 ang inyong Radio Ronda 5,000 watts nagsimbiya sa ikatulong andana sa UFCO Lim Building, Borromeo Street, Dakbayan sa Surigao. RPN Radio Philippines Network DXKS 1080 ang inyong Radio Ronda.
Sa bansa, naglagay na ng mga improvised barriers para sa mga nagbibisikleta. Typhoon Ulysses, a super typhoon. Christina Tulak, CNN Philippines.
Si Ruth Cabal. Ito ang newsroom ngayon. Balita at serbisyo para sa Pilipino. Sinabi na rin ng gobyerno na kailangang paigtingin ang contact tracing. Maraming buhay ang nawala sa pananalasa ng sunod-sunod na bagyo. Usapan natin yan kasama si Education Undersecretary Diosdado San Antonio. Lulunsad bukas ang Green EDSA Movement. Ika nga, if you can't pay it back, pay it forward sa pagtatayo ng isang community pantry. Narito mabilis sa pasada ng mga balitang dapat niyong malaman. Ito ang newsroom ngayon.
This is News Night, where we go above and beyond the headlines. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Tonight on the program, hundreds of thousands of public utility drivers struggling with 10 straight weeks of fuel price hikes are set to finally get financial help from the government. But a transport coalition says this may not be enough to prevent a planned nationwide strike next week. Delta and Omicron variants combined, World Health experts are looking into a hybrid version of these coronavirus variants detected in some European countries. And armies have the permission to dance today as K-pop sensation BTS hits the concert stage in its home base for the first time in over 2 years. As pump prices continue to skyrocket, the government is releasing tomorrow the first installment of the fuel subsidy for public utility drivers. Amor Santos tells us some transport groups are now putting their fare hike petition in the backseat.
4 transport groups fought for a 5 peso increase in the minimum fare of jeepneys in Metro Manila, Central Luzon, and Southern Tagalog. Pending any decision, they called on regulators to revert the fare to 10 pesos. But after a meeting with Transportation Secretary Arthur Tugade on Wednesday, Pasang Mazda is setting aside the petition for now. Transport leader Kaobet Martin says Tugade promised to double the fuel subsidy for drivers and include traditional jeepneys in the government's service contracting program for a more stable income.
Sobra-sobra po yan. Hindi na aragabyado ang transport sector dyan. Tatagal lang nga mga 4 na buwan ng service contracting. Hopefully, by the time, tapos na po ang gera sa Ukraine at Russia at normalize na ang price of petrol.
Acting Budget Secretary Tina Canda confirms the Economic Development Cluster has agreed to double the allocation for fuel subsidy to 5 billion pesos. The first half will be released by Friday, the other 2.5 billion pesos in April. Transportation Undersecretary Steve Pastor says qualified drivers will each receive 6,500 pesos for the first tranche, but no definite amount yet for the second round of aid. He says the department is waiting for data on the number of tricycle drivers and full-time drivers of ride-hailing apps and delivery services.
Ang tricycles po sa LGU yan at yung mga ride-hailing apps po sa DTI po yan.
Okay,
so we are awaiting the data. Once we receive the funding po, we can distribute a day or two sa ating mga chistel na pantong pasada card.
But not all transport groups are satisfied with the government's pronouncements. Liga ng Transportasyon at Operators sa Pilipinas or LTOP is not taking a detour from its proposed 6 peso fare hike.
Ang tanong ko, yung bang pangako ay pwedeng dalhin sa palengke para makabili ng bigas at makabili ng ulam? Diba? May pamalingki ba nila yung pangako?
Ayaw naming gawin ito, ma'am. Pero pag tumaas pa, ma'am, wala rin kaming gagawin sa biyahe, wala nang kita.
The National Public Transport Coalition warns drivers nationwide may be forced to take a more drastic action, staging a transport strike if fuel prices will again soar on March 15th, unless the government suspends excise taxes. Amor Santos, CNN Philippines.
Hundreds of thousands of PUV drivers are set to benefit from the fuel subsidy, but there are millions of tricycle drivers nationwide, and they're hoping they will not be left out in the distribution of cash aid, as they are equally having difficulty because of expensive fuel. Here's George Cahilas with the story.
Tricycle drivers here in Barangay Santo Niño, Parañaque City, like Gacela Ruben, are feeling the pinch. They can barely cope with fuel becoming expensive in a matter of weeks. Ruben says his take-home has been cut by more than half, from 500 pesos before the pandemic, and that the smaller amount comes from working for 12 hours.
Hindi yung nagsasapat ng kita ho namin sa biyahe ho namin. Ang pasahero pa ho namin, pa utay-utay pa ho rito. Hindi pa ho sapat.
In Eastern Visayas, tricycle drivers have asked for a substantial fare increase. From 9 pesos, they want a minimum fare for at least 15 pesos. As a stopgap measure, the government will release a one-time 5 billion peso fuel subsidy for public utility vehicle drivers. This amount would mean each of the over 377,000 drivers will receive 13,000 pesos. The 2022 budget law specifically identified tricycle drivers as among recipients of the fuel subsidy. House Ways and Means Committee Chairperson Joey Salceda says tricycle drivers number more than 4 million nationwide. In Parañaque City alone, Mayor Edwin Olivares says the local government counts around 14,000 tricycle units.
Kailangan isama naman yung sektor ng tatlong gulong kasi affected na sila eh. Hindi lang itong ating pagtaas ng gasolina, pati pa nung pandemic. Ngayon lang ako nakaka-recover ng konti dahil nga alert level 1 ng Metro Manila. Tapos ito na naman yung ating increase ng ating gasoline natin.
So how will government fund the subsidy for tricycle drivers? Salceda says the president should declare a state of economic crisis to dip into the calamity fund for such purpose. Even presidential candidate Senator Ping Lacson is calling on the president to convene a special session of Congress to pass measures that will help people cope with costly fuel.
Pwede pa rin nilang increase. Pero dapat talaga i-cover lahat kasi lahat yan may bituka eh. Lahat may pamilya. Bakit tayo maglilimit lamang doon sa ipopera natin yung TODA? Gutom din yun.
Tricycle drivers like Ruben hope help will come soon as the crisis unfolds and the future remains uncertain. George Cahiles, CNN Philippines.
Some oil companies are offering a reprieve from the weekly price hikes. Petrogas is slashing fuel prices until Sunday. It's cutting the cost of gasoline by 5 pesos and 85 centavos per liter and diesel by 3 pesos and 60 centavos per liter. Petrogas says this is to minimize the impact of price hikes on motorists. And this one's only valid until today. Petron is giving its value card and super driver card holders a chance to earn points that would translate to a 2 peso per liter discount on all fuel products. Well, after a series of fuel price hikes, expect electricity charges to follow this month. Energy distributor Meralco will impose a 6 centavo per kilowatt-hour increase, which is equivalent to a 13 pesos add-on for those consuming 200 kilowatt-hours per month. Meralco explains suppliers are charging more for power generation. This is the first power rate hike after 2 consecutive reductions this year. Meralco warns of more power rate movements in the coming months. The world market expects oil prices to remain expensive as tension between Ukraine and Russia escalate.
Dinifer na 500 million in terms of the generation cost, that's 18 centavos. So yan ay i-recover over 3 months starting April. Plus yung additional distribution through up na refund na inimplement namin based sa order ng ERC. So yung mga factors na yan nakatulong para to keep rates somehow manageable, no?
So that this will be reflected in the May generation charge. So if there is any effect of the increase in world crude oil prices, we will feel it in the Malampaya prices starting May generation charge.
A nuclear plant in Ukraine has been disconnected from the power grid following the takeover by Russian forces. Authorities say the Chernobyl nuclear power plant lost its electricity supply on Wednesday. A dangerous leak could happen if the generators are not sustained within 48 hours. About 210 people working in Chernobyl could be affected. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba has called for a ceasefire to restore power supply at the plant. In 1986, a reactor explosion at the nuclear power plant killed 31 people. 3 people were killed after Russian troops attacked a maternity hospital in the city of Mariupol in Ukraine in what was supposed to be a ceasefire. Authorities say more than a dozen others were injured. The bombing happened despite a 12-hour ceasefire proposed by Moscow to help civilians flee to safety. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky accused Russia of genocide as he appealed to NATO to drive Russian forces from his nation's skies. Meanwhile, more humanitarian corridors will be opened in several parts of Ukraine, but it is still unclear if this has been agreed upon with Russia. Almost 35,000 Ukrainians were rescued through evacuation corridors. Up ahead, the World Health Organization confirms a hybrid version of the Delta and Omicron variants, and COMELEC Commissioner George Garcia is taking his hands off the cases involving Bongbong Marcos and 3 other presidential candidates. Details next.
Pandemic, serving others is the best. Sa pagtutulungan, patuloy ang ating laban sa buhay. Kaya dapat always healthy. With proper diet, exercise, and MX3 coffee mix to ignite my day. Hi guys! Lagi akong focused, active, at extraordinary. Because the most important things in life deserve nothing less. MX3 coffee mix, my choice.
Uy! May free delivery! Basta McDo free delivery, di kailangan pag-isipan. Diretso na sa new McDelivery app. Sarap! Download now!
2022 elections. How votes are counted and winners are declared. Voting machines automatically count each ballot. The results are then printed as the election return and sent electronically to the city or municipal board of canvassers. The district or provincial board of canvassers will then canvass the votes for president, vice president, senators, members of the House of Representatives, and elective provincial officials. Once complete, the board will produce the certificate of canvass votes. The certificate of canvass will then be transmitted to the COMELEC for senators and party list representatives, and to the Congress for the president and vice president. The certificates of canvass will be used as the basis for proclaiming winning candidates.
Welcome back. While COVID-19 cases are dropping, the World Health Organization says it is now studying a hybrid version of the Delta and Omicron variants. The recombinant has been detected in France, Denmark, and the Netherlands. The WHO says the Delta-Omicron combination is not surprising given the intense circulation and mutations of both variants. It adds it has not seen any change in its severity so far.
We do expect to see recombinants because this is what viruses do. They change over time. We're seeing a very intense level of circulation. We are seeing this virus infect animals with the possibility of infecting humans again. So again, the pandemic is far from over.
Today marks the start of the fourth round of the national vaccination drive. COVID-19 shots are available in doctors' clinics and workplace health facilities in the next 3 days. House-to-house vaccinations also underway. Health officials say vaccinators will also bring the doses to other areas such as churches, jails, and air and seaports.
We will do everything to continue access improvement, no, for our people. Para nang sa ganon, makamit natin yung 80% of our target population to be vaccinated fully, which is equivalent to 90 million Filipinos. Okay? So, while we haven't reached that, the possibility of another surge will always be there.
The government aims to vaccinate about 1.8 million people until Sunday. Newly appointed COMELEC Commissioner George Garcia is stepping back from cases involving his former clients, Bongbong Marcos, and 3 other presidential candidates. That's amid concerns of a possible conflict of interest. Melissa Lopez reports.
Veteran election lawyer George Garcia starts his term as poll commissioner with gestures meant to build public confidence in the COMELEC just 2 months before voting day. His first act is to take his hands off petitions that involve past clients, including 4 presidential bets.
I wrote a letter po, address sa ating clerk of court, na sinasabi ko itong mga kasong ito, in-enumerate ko ang lahat ng mga cases na hindi ako magpa-participate at po ng kaso ni former Senator Bongbong Marcos. I will likewise write a letter to the clerk of court stating that I will not participate in any way dito sa mga cases.
Garcia represented former Senator Bongbong Marcos in his 2016 electoral protest. He also previously worked with Senators Manny Pacquiao and Ping Lacson, and most recently with Manila Mayor Isko Moreno. Like new Chairman Saidamen Pangarungan and Commissioner Amy Neri, Garcia presents himself as an independent and fair poll executive.
But definitely I'll do everything na itatrabaho, mapapakahirap. Kasi nga, isipin nyo na lang, pag itong election na ito hindi naging successful, do you think may pag-asa pa kami ma-confirm? Diba?
Garcia attended his first unbanked meeting on Wednesday, bringing 2 major reforms on the table. First, he wants to revisit COMELEC's new rule on requiring campaign permits for in-person gatherings, saying there's room to relax measures, especially with declining COVID-19 cases. Second, he is asking to review the controversial Operation Baklas in light of the Supreme Court's TRO.
Hanggat hindi po nagka-clarify o decision ng Korte Suprema, in the meantime po, then we will have to abide definitely with the Supreme Court restraining order. Personally po, sabi ko, private property should be outside the regulation of the Commission on Election.
Garcia also says he can assist a group of teachers who are calling for tax-free benefits and honoraria on their pay as poll workers come May.
1,000 pesos ang itinaas, pero yung ibabawas naman sa tax namin ay 1,400. Nasaan ang lohika nun?
The 7-member unbank has only 8 weeks left to deliver these reforms, along with final preparations for the May 9 polls. Melissa Lopez, CNN Philippines.
An update on the presidential candidates 60 days before the Filipino votes. Senator Ping Lacson is among those being considered for endorsement by the ruling party, PDP Laban. Now, that revelation coming from Parañaque Mayor Edwin Olivares, the Cusi faction's vice president for NCR. The faction had endorsed the vice presidential bid of Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte.
In terms of qualification, wala po tayong masasabi kay Senator Ping. Mula nung nasa PNP siya, ilang term ng bilang senator natin. Ang problem lang po namin, I belong to the party ng PDP. So, i-convene namin po before the 25 ulit yung National Executive Committee through consultation po namin sa aming mga chapter PDP natin. Tapos magkakaroon po ng official statement. At andun po si Senator Ping, isa po sa tinitingnan po for endorsement for president ng PDP.
The camp of Vice President Leni Robredo hits back at what it says is red tagging of her campaign rallies. Robredo's spokesperson Barry Gutierrez says red tagging masked as concern is, quote, a new low. The statement comes as Lacson insists Robredo's campaign rally in Cavite was infiltrated by communists based on the information he got from a supposed rebel surrenderee. Lacson says his team is also verifying whether communists were also present in Robredo's sorties in Iloilo and Bulacan. Labor leader Leody de Guzman renewing his calls to scrap the oil deregulation law to ease the burden of the transportation sector and ordinary workers amid the oil price hike.
Pangalagaan ng gobyerno, proteksyonan ng gobyerno, hindi yung mga korporasyon ng langis, kundi yung mamamayan. At ang isang paraan, makialam siya, huwag nga ipaubaya sa negosyo ng mga korporasyon ng langis yung pagtatakda ng presyo.
Senator Manny Pacquiao warns scammers who use his name for money-making schemes could face jail time. He's looking into offering a cash reward for information that could lead to their arrests. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno in favor of postponing the barangay elections this December, saying the money is better used to provide aid to people amid the oil price hike. Meanwhile, his running mate Willie Ong proposing an interagency task force to handle the effects of a possible nuclear war amid Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Gino-volunteer ko na sarili ko. Ako na lang mag-head. Diba? Kalimutan na natin itong eleksyon. Ako muna head. Hindi na tayo makahintay ng July eh. Bibili na natin yung potassium iodide. Diba? Ire-ready na natin yung mga tao. Tuturuan na natin kung anong gagawin.
The tandem of Bongbong Marcos and Sara Duterte says church leaders are embracing the Uniteam's call for unity. The statement comes after Marcos and Duterte met with Bishop Leopoldo Haushan of the Diocese of Bangued in Abra and Bishop Ted Malangen of the Jesus Christ the Deliverer Church in Bulacan. The Marcos camp this week urged the Catholic clergy to stop meddling in politics. In an interview with talk show host Boy Abunda, Marcos's wife reveals the former senator decided to run for the presidency while watching a Marvel movie.
You know, 6 months ago, he wasn't yet sure what to do. We had no party, no. And then one day we're watching Ant-Man in the room. And then he looked, because we love Marvel movies. And then he looked at me and he goes, okay, we're going to do this. He told me. I said, do what? Run for the presidency.
Ant-Man tells the story of a former convicted thief who turned into an Avenger with the ability to shrink to a tiny size. More stories ahead. It's a big night for BTS ARMYs. The first of 3 Permission to Dance on Stage Seoul concerts has kicked off. And another highly anticipated feature, the trailer for the new Star Wars spin-off show is out. Keep it here on CNN Philippines.
Bawat minutong lumilipas, hinahanap-hanap kita, hanap-hanapin ka, sabik sa'yo.
With this new Galaxy S lineup, we are set to bring the epic standard for premium smartphones. We have created an entirely new Galaxy mobile experience with the Galaxy S22 Ultra. And for the first time, the S series will have the Galaxy's signature S Pen built in. Now, for those who want devices that fuel creativity and self-expression, the Galaxy S22 and Galaxy S22 Plus can help make every moment epic. We also welcome a new addition into our ecosystem, the Tab S8. Premium cameras, super fast connectivity, batteries that last you all day, and of course, innovative new ways to share. And that is everything that the Galaxy brand is known for.
Welcome back. Hollywood actress Jennifer Garner got netizens feeling nostalgic with his 13 going on 30 reunion post. It features a frame from the popular 2004 film, which Garner recreated with co-star Mark Ruffalo in their new movie. You can catch the duo together again on The Adam Project, streaming on Netflix by tomorrow. Also, the talk of netizens' worldwide sensation BTS bringing live music back to their home base. The K-pop group's first Seoul concert in over 2 years is underway. It is the first of 3 in South Korea's capital, but fans here at home don't have to miss out. Saturday's event will be played in select SM cinemas, while shows tonight and on Sunday will be live streamed. Find out more about the legendary Jedi Master in the latest Star Wars spin-off series. Disney Plus just unveiled its first trailer for Obi-Wan Kenobi, which connects the franchise's prequel and original trilogies. The teaser features a young Luke Skywalker and the return of more beloved characters. Take a look.
Jedi cannot help what they are. Their compassion leaves a trail.
Obi-Wan Kenobi comes out on Disney Plus on May 25th. The streaming platform is not yet available in the Philippines. But what can we already watch? A computer-animated coming-of-age story and a star-studded action comedy flick hit local cinemas this week. Christine Jacob gives us a peek.
I'm starting to imagine a life without bodyguarding. This really feels like a new
A-listers Samuel L. Jackson and Ryan Reynolds are bringing the action and the laughs again in Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. The sequel to the 2017 film brings us back Reynolds' character, a bodyguard who is ready to live a quiet life. But then he's forced to team up once more with this hitman, played by Jackson, and this hitman's wife, portrayed by the pretty Salma Hayek, to stop a madman from launching a terror attack on Europe. Well, that's kind of relatable these days. The film also features familiar faces, Antonio Banderas and Morgan Freeman.
You nearly got me killed.
Not enough.
Breakfast is ready. A spunky 13-year-old girl is at the center of the Pixar-produced and Disney-distributed film Turning Red. The movie, directed by Domi Shi, in her feature debut, tells the story of Mei Li, who, by the way, is Chinese-Canadian, and simply a dutiful daughter to her mother. However, there's something more to being a teenager, as Mei Li, to her fluffy surprise, finds out she magically turns into a giant red panda whenever she gets too excited. That's really interesting.
Mama's girls. It's gonna be me.
That was Christine Jacob with the latest in theaters. And that is it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
Paring Al, kanindot sa uhay sa imong palay. Unsa imong sikreto?
Akong sikreto, may gamit kong Crop Giant Foliar Fertilizer.
Unsa na bay?
Ang Crop Giant usa ka perpektong abono. Tungod adto na kini mga nag-unang materyales sama sa nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, lakip mga microelements sama sa iron, manganese, zinc, copper, ug molybdenum nga maoy gikinahanglan sa atong mga pananom aron mamahimong himsog ug maayo ang ilang pagtubo.
Mao ba? Sige, sugod karon maggamit ako og Crop Giant Foliar Fertilizer. Tungod sa Crop Giant, champion na sa umayan. Sigurado pa sa panginabuhian. Sigurado ang pag-asinso.
Ang Crop Giant Water-Soluble Foliar Fertilizer gama sa Haifa Chemical Israel og eksklusibong gipangapod-apod sa Aldous Incorporated ning nasod sa Pilipinas. Sukod na og ginasaligan sa kadaghanan.
SMC San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement, Gama sa Davao, para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay.
Kini ang simbiyanan sa RPN, Radio Philippines Network, DXKS, DXKS, Jess 80, ang inyong Radio Ronda, 5,000 watts, nagsimbiya sa ikatulong andana sa UFCO Lim Building, Borromeo Street, Dakbayan sa Surigao. RPN, Radio Philippines Network, DXKS, Jess 80, ang inyong Radio Ronda.
The country has gone to great lengths to empower women and close the gender gap in public service and business. But hurdles remain, especially in legal and economic equality, as the country shows little progress on the country has gone to parenthood, marriage, and access. The country has gone to great lengths to empower women and close the gender gap in public service and business. But hurdles remain, especially in legal and economic equality here in Metro Manila by a margin, while the vice mayoral contest appears more cutthroat. And at the national level, presidential bet Bongbong Marcos and running mate Sara Duterte maintain their leads in surveys come May 9th. Will these numbers translate to actual votes, or is there more that these surveys fail to capture? Good evening. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Welcome to your weekly political appointment fix. Politics as usual. We have 3 topics tonight and 3 guests. One guest for each topic. So we need to begin now. In celebration of Women's Day, let's first talk about issues facing Filipino women. Joining me tonight is Senator Pia Cayetano. Good evening, Senator. And right before we start, but we only have, like I wanted to remind you, 7.5 to 8 minutes only. Just before we start, I wanted you to address the question. People on Twitter just before we start, I wanted you to address about women's issues and women's rights here in the Philippines. Talking about how your relationship with President Duterte impacts on that.
Well, good evening first to everyone, and hello, my katukayo, Pia. I'm always happy to have the opportunity to answer that question. I've explained this many times. I have I don't know if you call it unenviable position where I have known the president since 2004. And when he ran for the president, I became kind of the takbuhan of the team to talk to him when it comes to women's issues. And everybody around the team can vouch for that I would always be whispering to him, telling him na, Sir, Mayor, hindi ho gender-friendly yung sinabi nyo, hindi ho appropriate to say these things. Alam niya yan. And he even made a statement one time that I was sitting in a forum in front of him, and you can really tell na magmumura siya. Like 5 times, 6 times. And later on, he said, napipigilan ko yung sarili ko kasi nakikita ko dyan si Senator Pia. So, that's been my role, no? Nakokontrol ko ba yung sinasabi niya? Hindi ko nakokontrol. Hindi naman ako EA niya, hindi naman ako PA niya. I have my own job as a senator. Yeah. But I'm proud to say that I've done my part in trying to help him express himself in a more appropriate way. And I'm also happy that I have been able to get past legislation that support women. And one of the most important ones during this term is the 105 maternity leave days law. That languished, and there were so many opponents when I was a member of the House. Right. Ang daming kumukontra, businessmen ayaw. Napapasa ko yun kasi kinausap ko.
Businessmen ayaw dahil nga, and thank you pala for your response to that President Duterte question, and we've gotten that out of the way.
Ayaw nila kasi,
ayaw nila kasi
dagdag daw sa sa babayaran nila kung may maternity leave.
Umaaray nga sila sa isa't kalahating buwang maternity leave. Ano pa kaya yung 105?
Yeah, 105 days. Pero it's taken out of the SS naman eh. So, di ba, private employees pay their SS. So, dun lang kinukuha yun. Wala naman dinadagdag, no? So, covered na yan. And right now, wala nang nagre-reklamo. Hanggang ngayon, libo-libong kababaihan, taon-taon ang nakikinabang. And they're always grateful for it because more time with your infant makes you more productive pagbalik mo sa office. Alam natin yan, mga nanay tayo.
Yes,
di ba?
yes. I remember coming back from maternity leave after 1.5 months and you feel like parang,
Kulang.
parang bitin
Yung baby mo,
Oh.
iniwan mo yung baby mo,
Saya yan.
baby pa siya, di ba? But the difference between, ako naman 60 days, the difference between 60 days and 105, medyo 3.5 months na yung baby. And by the way, may 30 days additional yon pero hindi ka na paid. Yung 105 is paid.
Okay. Let's talk about other measures to advance the welfare of women. You are, midterm, so you're going to be center for the next 3 years. What else would you like to do for women, to close the gender gap, to give women more of what's needed?
Yeah. Well, the Philippines has topped the rankings in various not really sure. Yeah, well, surveys that were done. One is by the World Bank, another one is by the World Economic Forum. We're usually in the top. Sa World Bank, ang grade natin doon is something like 78%, which is even more than the median. And then doon naman sa World Economic Forum, we were ranked in the top 10 until 2018, and then nag-slip tayo ng konti, but we're still in the top 20. So it means, based on the laws that we passed, and yun naman yung trabaho ko, laws,
Right.
the laws are there. As to the implementation, then that goes back to culture and education. So I hate to hear na, kasi ganun naman ang kultura. Yeah, but if it's wrong, it's wrong. You have to change it. But I understand that takes time. So you go to the education process. You help them understand. And let me talk about the reproductive health law.
Right.
Wala daw sa kultura natin na gumamit ng contraceptives. Siguro if you look back 200 years ago, wala namang kasing contraceptives nung panahon na yon, di ba? So wala talaga sa kultura before all over the world. But then it becomes acceptable. You teach them how to use it in a responsible way. And over time, it becomes part also of our culture. So yun ang paniniwala ko na there are still things we need to do, but it goes back to educating the young. And I'm not to empower girls. It's not just educating girls. It's educating girls and boys. It's a gender partnership.
Right, girls and boys, very important.
Nagpe-preach lang tayo to the choir, Pia, if ine-empower lang natin yung girls, tapos naman yung counterpart nila na boys, yung mga kaklase nila na boys, yung mga manliligaw sa kanila na boys, yung future boyfriends nila, hindi naman din na-empower to support women in power. And can I just quickly say that one of the problems that we will foresee, and this has already been documented in research, that as women become more educated and have more jobs, nagkakaroon din ng difficulty to find good relationships because nangyayari talaga na may parang insecurity din ang ibang lalaki. Not all, and I love a man who can love an empowered woman, but these are things we have to face, no? I love it when I see young boys na proud sila sa sister nila na athlete, na sister nila na debater, kasi then I know that they will grow up to be young gentlemen and men who will respect women for what they can do.
Let's talk, we only have about 2 minutes to go, Senator Pia. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, in this country, divorce. Every time that's brought up, no one really wants to touch it with a 10-foot pole. And, you bring it up in a debate, it gets a little bit sticky.
And I will.
Yeah. So what are we going to do? Because, so we have annulment, church annulment, etc. But, there are a lot of women who parang need more than that.
Yes. Seriously ko tong inaral. I went to 3 countries na marami tayong OFWs. Malaysia, and then Indonesia, and then Hong Kong. Sorry, Malaysia, Hong Kong, and Japan. Kasi ang dami nating OFW. Like in Japan, matagal na silang hiwalay sa asawa nila. Resident na sila doon, and yet they are legally bound. Kung ano yung kinikita nila in Japan, yung asawa nilang lalaki, may misis ng iba, may anak ng iba, wala nang pakialam sila. But lahat ng kinikita nila, their husband owns part of it. Tama ba yun? Tama ba yun? Yun lang naman ang pinaglalaban ko. With all due respect to the religious groups, I am so much for marriage. I am so much for the sanctity of marriage. But there are instances na kailangan naman natin bigyan ng legal protection ang babae and sometimes ang lalaki to have a way to graciously and legally end that marriage.
It's good you emphasize that, babae at yung lalaki, because
Yeah,
there are
naman,
also
of course.
men who need more than an annulment. And of course, that's a whole, that's another entire issue, when we talk about relationships. Okay, we have we need to wrap up already. So, Senator Pia, can you give us just final words? No, mothers, single mothers especially during the pandemic, the predicament of that, more economic opportunities for them, because that is another reality. We have single mothers, and for that matter, single fathers also.
Yes. Work from home. The pandemic has shown us that work from home is possible, and it escalated in a grand way the work from home mechanism. And now many women, and sabi mo nga, Pia, lalaki din, have that experience of working from home, and that brings about many opportunities for them to fulfill their dual role as mother or caregiver. Baka hindi mother, pero nag-aalaga ng lola, nag-aalaga ng may sakit. So their dual role as caregiver and breadwinner in the family. So work from home is a result of the pandemic. I mean, is something that came out of the pandemic, which is feasible, and we must support it in every way we can. It has also revealed our gaps, because access to healthcare and access to childcare has become worse during the pandemic.
Right.
So nakita natin, and it gives us more reason to support it. At another time, I can elaborate on that, but I think that's the most important things we can do. And then fulfill the sustainable development goals, because believe it or not, something like sustainable transportation. Yung 4 na oras mo na nasa traffic ka, kung in 30 minutes nakauwi ka, edi mas may time ka maging nanay, mas may time ka sa anak mo, diba? So sustainable transportation, sustainable cities affect women and how they perform their jobs.
Senator Pia Cayetano, thank you very much for your time tonight. We'll be back after a quick break. Stay tuned. This is Politics as Usual.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement, gama sa Davao para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement, ato ni Bay.
Protektahi ang imong mga mata batok sa delikado ug makadaot nga ultraviolet nga silaw sa adlaw ug uban pa. Pinaagi sa pagsulob og eksakto nga prescription sa antiyohos o antipara. Likay ang mga simptomas sama sa hanap nga pananaw sa layo o duol nga basahon, sakit sa ulo ug uban pa nga makaapekto sa atong kahimsog nga ang hinungdan depekto sa atong mga mata. Alang sa kumpleto nga primary eye care, contact lenses, fashion eyewear, computer eyeglasses, sunglasses, accessories ug uban pa, adto kita sa AG Buñuel Optical Clinic. Ang AG Buñuel Optical Clinic nagpahinumdum kanato nga ang kahimsog sa atong mga mata usa ka prioridad nga angay ipa-check up kausa matag tuig aron pagsiguro nga luwas kita sa piligrong mga sakit. Pinaagi sa lisensyado og qualified optometrists nga maoy mo prescribe sa eksaktong kagamitan ug kung primary eye care ang paghisgutan. Duaw lang silang buhatan sa 3636 sa Nicolas Street, Surigao City ug adunay ilang extension office sa Aurelianida Street, Cantilan, Surigao del Sur. Ayaw kalimti higala, AG Buñuel Optical Clinic.
Ang AG Buñuel Optical Clinic doon na branch dito sa lungsod sa Dapa sa may Lupis Haina Street, Poblasyon Dapa, Surigao del Norte.
Ang AG Buñuel Optical Clinic dinhi sa syudad ng Surigao no transfer na sa bag-ong location sa Nicolas Street ra gihapon, tapad sa Garcia Hotel at bang sa Unicity.
Salamat sa Primera Light, halika tikman. Primera na klase ang Primera Light tinuan. Primera Light, salamat free.
Drink responsibly.
Ang Riverside Parts Master Incorporated na sa ilang bagong location sa Dalan, Burgos, ning atong syudad. Mahimo niyong tawagan sa telephone number 231-7478 or 826-3663. Mga produkto nga inyong mapalit, genuine, Makita Power Tools sama sa planer, drill, grinder, Triton Paints, construction supplies, angle bars, flat bars, GI pipes, automotive spare parts, Firefly electrical devices sama sa switches, bulbs ug outlets. Adto ang Riverside Parts Master Incorporated sa ilang bagong pwesto sa Dalan, Burgos ning syudad. Makahangyo ka o makabarato pagyod diha sa Riverside Parts Master Incorporated.
RPN Radio Philippines Network, Radyo Ronda DXKS Surigao, member kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Welcome back to Politics as Usual. On to local politics. Here in Metro Manila, a survey showing re-electionist mayors and their relatives leading by a wide gap against their opponents. Let's talk to lobby and campaign group Publicus Asia's David Yap for more. David, thank you very much for being with us tonight. So what explains this? And I wanted to take a wild guess and then you can correct me if I'm wrong. Number one, it's a midterm election. Number two, most are gunning for a second term. Or taking over from their relative, close relative. And number three, most if not all of them, Metro Manila LGUs did very well in their pandemic response.
Yes, correct. So just as an introduction for your viewers, our survey numbers suggest that incumbent mayors as well as the relatives of incumbent mayors, as you mentioned, appear to be ahead of their closest rivals by statistically significant margins, at least at this point in time. It is important to emphasize, however, that these numbers do not guarantee victories for incumbents. We have to be cognizant of sampling variation and view these numbers from a stochastic perspective rather than a deterministic perspective. There remains a lot of uncertainty, especially when sampling is involved. It is also important to emphasize that a lot can still happen between now and May 9th. Particularly in local elections where candidates are still waiting for the official start of the local campaign period. So incumbents typically hold advantages over their competitors because of familiarity, which includes name recall and brand recognition. People are used to them, people are familiar with them, and in some cases, their families. They've amassed tremendous amounts of social capital over the years and are often capable of leveraging these stores of capital effectively and efficiently during elections. And as you pointed out earlier, the pandemic brought even more opportunities for incumbents. So as Winston Churchill once said, never let a good crisis go to waste. In the case of COVID, LGUs engaged in the large-scale provision of dole-outs, medical assistance, testing kits, and perhaps most importantly, vaccines. As was shown in our 2020 survey tracker series, specifically for COVID, some LGUs performed extremely well throughout the pandemic, notching high performance ratings throughout the survey period, while others started out slow but eventually got up to speed. In general, most LGUs in the NCR ultimately performed well, at least according to respondents and the overall vaccination rate in the region. At any rate, the crux of the matter is that reciprocity is a powerful motivating force among humans, and people are wired to repay one good turn with another. It is not a stretch to think that at least some voters would remember the assistance given to them by incumbents at some point during the pandemic when they look at
the most notable figures here. No? So let's begin with Vico Soto. I mean, wow, just wow, 92%. And he doesn't, well, of course, I mean, biz and everything. But he's really gotten a lot of positive, very good feedback, right, in his first term. And that is why, I mean, no one else, well, apart from Wes Gatchalian, whose brother Rex is doing a musical chairs with him, 85% si Wes for Valenzuela, Abby Binay Makati, 68%, pero 92%.
I think that is a testament to how he has thus far performed. So if we're looking at the numbers, I would go so far as to say that he has managed to sustain the momentum